What is up, guys? It's your boy, Rick Kakis, and today we gotta discuss the huge problems that Master difficulty raids are having right now within Destiny 2. Earlier this week, the Master King's Fall raid launched, and the community reaction was either entirely negative or at best, meh. So, in this video, we're going to discuss the problems with Master difficulty, why this matters to all players, even those not playing this activity, and what Bungie can do to fix this. So first of all, what the heck is the difference between normal and Master difficulty raids? Well, in terms of gameplay, there's really only two. Master has a significantly increased light level requirement, and already we're off to not the best start because this is still affected by your artifact level. In fact, if you want to achieve parity with this light level, you're going to have to do a lot of artifact light level grinding, just get a massive amount of experience. And for a lot of players out there, they're kind of getting sick of this, grinding bounties, doing mindless seasonal challenges just to make that number go up. It's not the most fun and engaging, and it limits the amount of players that can actually participate in this content to only those who've invested the significant amount of time to actually increase your artifact light level enough. So there's a lot of really good players out there. I'm sure some of you watching would fall into this category who are talented enough to beat the Master difficulty raid, but they just don't have time to increase their light level that much. So a lot of players would just prefer that the day one contest mode come back for Master difficulty, so you wouldn't have to have such a high light level requirement. But aside from that, the only other difference in terms of gameplay is there's a bunch of champions now. That's it. And a lot of players, with respect to that, would like to see Bungie actually introduce some slight changes to mechanics, maybe add some additional mechanics or something to actually change up the way you play, because as it is right now, you're really just doing the exact same thing from the normal difficulty. But to be honest, neither of those things are the core problem with Master difficulty. That is reserved for the rewards. So, if you're doing a Master difficulty raid, every single encounter will drop armor, guaranteed 100%, and this armor will have a certain focused stat depending on the week. So, it might be a week where recovery is focused, and therefore the armor you're getting will have higher than normal recovery to help you target farm the armor you need. Sounds decent, right? Except there's a problem. Like I said, the light level requirement is pretty darn high. Like, Master is indeed a challenging activity. If you're a player who has played the game enough to increase your light level to be able to actually access this activity, and also you're talented enough to beat it, I would assume you're also good enough to beat a Master difficulty dungeon, and those reward Artifice Armor. Artifice Armor has an additional mod slot for seasonal mods. And guys, we all know the seasonal mods are absolutely busted. I mean, Classy Restoration last season literally defined the PvP and honestly the PvE meta as well. This season, we have the one that massively increases your grenade recharge rate. And I mean, the Grenadier Titan is just bonkers right now, partially thanks to that mod. So having an additional mod slot is just outright better than a normal piece of armor. And therefore, you're doing this Master difficulty raid and you're getting armor that's inferior. Like, why would you spend time farming this raid armor when you could spend your time farming at a much faster rate, by the way? Like, beating dungeon encounters on Master over and over again are going to give you so much more armor, and they drop armor every time. There's no weekly lockout, right? Why would you spend your time farming the literally worse than tier 2 armor when you could just go farm Master dungeons for the best armor in the game? And if you're thinking, well, what about the stats you want? Well, there's ways to focus Umbral engrams into armor with the stats you want. So there's much easier ways to stat farm armor than doing a Master difficulty raid. But what about the weapons, right? That's just armor. Well, you're going to get one weapon for your entire run, and that is if you do the challenge mode that is featured for that week. So one of all the encounters will have challenge mode, and that one activity, if you beat challenge mode, will drop an adept raid weapon. And what you're looking at here is an adept raid weapon. In this case, the Defiance of YASMIN sniper rifle. So this is a very good sniper rifle, especially with the PvP god roll. Interestingly, it does actually take after what Vault of Glass was doing, so the bottom perks are dedicated. So the Adept Defiance of YASMIN will always drop with Firefly and Demolitionist for some reason, and then the top perks are randomized. So for some of the weapons, especially the hand cannon, this is very good because it, I think, will always drop with explosive payload, which is like top tier. That's what you want for the PvE god roll. So it's going to be easier to get the god roll for certain weapons because of these guaranteed perks. And obviously being able to switch from one perk to another can give you a roll that's good in multiple situations. Like maybe you have the PvP god roll up top and the PvE god roll on bottom. You know, I'm kind of speculating here, but in addition to that, because it's technically an adept weapon, you can put on an adept mod. So something like adept range gives you plus 10 range, and that's something that other weapons in the game cannot equip. Adept Big One spec is great for PvE, basically giving you major spec and boss spec rolled into one. That's also great. But are any of those things better than enhanced perks? And this is the huge problem we're having in the game right now. And honestly, this is not even necessarily a problem that's solely unique to the master difficulty raids, because introducing weapon crafting came with a ton of benefits, but also some problems. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys watching, you guys just auto-delete stuff that isn't red border, don't you? I mean, I know I do. I barely even look at the rolls when I can actually get the crafted version. And specifically with raids, the big problem is that, you know, unlike trials where you can't craft trials weapons, so obviously the adept versions are still the best, with raid weapons, you can just craft the normal versions. So that means you now have to basically decide between, do you want the adept version with extra perks and that adept mod slot, or do you want the normal version that comes with enhanced perks? Because the adept versions cannot get enhanced perks. And to be honest, guys, 90% of the time, the more powerful version is the normal version that you've crafted with double enhanced perks. I mean, take a look at the raid hand cannon, for example. A lot of people would consider the god roll to be what I have right here, explosive payload plus incandescent. Well, enhanced incandescent, as you can see, is going to apply a longer lasting scorch. Now, what that really means is instead of 30 scorch stacks, it's going to apply 40. And more scorch stacks is a big deal. Even 10 more scorch stacks means that you're gonna reach that, I think, 100 scorch stacks maximum, which then ignites enemies and causes that huge AoE explosion. Not to mention, if you're starting with a higher base number of 40, you combine it with, I think, Ember of Ashes that increases the scorch stacks you get 85. So that's absolutely insane. So I would say, especially if you're running a Solar 3.0 build and you value those scorch stacks, you have synergies with Scorch in your build, obviously you're gonna go with Enhanced Incandescent for more scorch stacks over plus 10 range or adept big one spec or whatever. You're gonna get way more benefits from that enhanced perk than you are having multiple perks or, again, those adept mods. So we have this huge problem with rewards where it's a harder activity that is handing out arguably worse rewards, right? And again, if you get the perfect god roll adept weapon with the exact perks you want, and maybe relevant other perks you can switch to, and you have a really relevant adept mod, maybe there's someone in the comment section making an argument for the perfect adept weapon, right? And maybe you're right, and maybe that would be slightly better than the craftable version with 2 enhanced perks. But like, see how we're talking? Like, maybe if you get the perfect roll, it's slightly better than the much easier activity. For 99% of players, just play the easier activity, craft your own raid weapons, and go about your day. The rewards for the harder activity are either comparable at parity or often worse, and it just makes no sense. It would be like getting a worse version of the Trials weapons for going flawless, right? Now, with all of that being said, why does this matter? Especially for players who haven't set foot in a Master difficulty raid, or heck, raid in general. Well, you need good aspirational content for everyone. A lot of players haven't touched a raid, even I'm sure some of you guys watching. But why are you going out there and trying to get god rolls, trying to get better rolled armor, better exotics, putting builds together? It's because in the back of your mind, you are thinking that maybe one day you will take on a raid, and so you want to have that great gear. Imagine if Destiny removed raids, grandmasters, nightfalls, all aspirational content. The end game was just strikes, that's it. Would you really be that motivated to go and get the god roll? Right? Like, what would you be getting the god roll for? You need that next step. You need that challenge. You're trying to accumulate, all these things and build your character up so you can take on these harder challenges. So when we have the harder challenges giving worse rewards and being pointless in a lot of people's eyes, it ruins your motivation. Why spend that extra time playing Destiny 2, getting that god roll, if the content you're getting that god roll for doesn't even matter, right? So that's why it matters. Now, how can we fix this? Well, the easiest thing to do would just be to let the adept weapons spawn with enhanced perks, or make them come with red borders, and then you actually are able to craft your own adept version of the raid weapons, and you have to earn the red borders, obviously, in the master difficulty. Now, a lot of people are going to be saying, whoa, that would be overpowered. You have the adept mod slot, you have double perks, and now you have double enhanced perks maybe? But here's the thing. Destiny 2 launched with weapons that had static rolls with one single perk, because 2 rolls was overpowered from Destiny 1. It was a disaster, and we changed it, and the game just did fine. When Trials originally launched, we didn't have adept weapons. And if you brought up that they should have more powerful weapons with potentially intrinsic perks or just better stats, people said that would be overpowered. Guess what? They did it, and the game's doing just fine. And then when crafting came and people originally heard that you could get perks that were outright better than the normal perks, a bunch of people cried that it would be overpowered, and guess what? The game's doing just fine. When it originally came out that Artifice armor was outright better than normal armor, people cried overpowered, and guess what? The game's doing just fine. So these slight increases in power, yes, it's power creep. Yes, maybe it will be overpowered, but we've jumped up in power so many times within the last few years, and every time people were crying that it was going to be overpowered, and the game's doing just fine. But hey, I get it. Maybe this would be the straw that breaks the camel's back in terms of just a weapon that's too much more powerful than everything else. So maybe the solution isn't in the weapons, it's in the armor. If the raid armor dropped Artifice, it would bring it up to parity with what the Master Dungeons are offering, and actually give you a way to target farm stats on Artifice armor, I think for the first time ever, right? So that would be a very big deal, and that would be a huge motivation in actually playing the Master difficulty raids. But another, admittedly more radical solution would be, instead of trying to improve the bad loot structure of Master Raids, just change it entirely. First of all, you have to ask the question, why does raid loot need to be craftable? I mean, it wasn't until very, very recently, and if we look back at the raid before it was craftable, the Vault of Glass, you had a very relevant raid, because the loot was fantastic, Fatebringer, etc., and then the Master version was also super relevant. You're trying to get the time lost Fatebringer and the time lost, Vision of Conflicts, all that stuff, guys. Like, that was the perfect raid structure. Everything made sense there. Very valuable raid loot, extremely valuable, basically adept or time lost raid loot. But crafting kind of put a wrench in all of that. And again, crafting has many benefits, but it also has problems. Like, should raid loot be craftable? Should so many things be craftable? Or maybe just the seasonal weapons so you can get the guaranteed god rolls, and the rest of the weapons, you're actually still going to have to hunt god rolls like we've been doing for 5 years, right? But hey, a lot of people do like it because it eliminates some of the trash RNG, and this game never really has RNG protection and all that crap. So let's keep weapon crafting, but then why do we need adept weapons? Like, adept weapons can be a thing for trials, right? Why does it also need to be a thing for raids? Maybe the master version could do things like drop more guaranteed red borders. You beat the challenge mode, you get a guaranteed red border weapon. Maybe it's dropping just double loot of the normal loot. You know, most people, by the point master drops, don't have all the weapons craftable. They're still just looking for red borders. In fact, you know, doing the master raids, most people are just trying to get the weapons just so that they come with a red border so they can delete them and add to that pattern progress. So let's just, you know, lean into that. Perhaps master difficulty comes out sooner, but then it's the way that you can more efficiently grind those red borders, and that would also make it very relevant. But at the end of the day, Bungie just needs to do something. These are the exact same problems we had with Master Vow of the Disciple. We gave a ton of feedback and they didn't change a thing. It's a super talented studio who just got $3.6 billion in funding. I guarantee they can come up with a good solution to this problem. They just need to prioritize it. And again, with what I'm arguing with aspirational content, this should be a priority. It's not a throwaway piece of content just for the super sweat hardcores. It matters to everyone because you always need something to aspire towards. You always need something, a reason behind why you're improving your build. That's why it really, really matters. And so guys, that's it for the video. Hope you enjoyed and found this interesting. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.